Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March 23rd, 2022 meeting of the Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority of Harrisburg. We are all present and look forward to likely a very short meeting. I'm going to apologize because I am wearing my mask because I have a cold and I've tested and it's not COVID. But I will also not talk much today because the mask, as I said to Anna Marie, and talking just doesn't make it. So we're going to slightly change our agenda today because I got a note from Marita at 2 saying that she and Dan could not be here until 4:30. Matt, I bartered for a Matt Maisel to come by himself. So I think that's a pretty good trade, Matt for Dan and Marita. And they will text Matt if it's not going to be 4:30, because then we're just going to adjourn the meeting. So therefore it could be a short meeting. So we'll do, first let's do the approval of the minutes. If everyone, I hope, has had a chance to read them. Great. Second?
Second.
Perfect. Any discussion? Any comment? If not, all those in favor for accepting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Say nay. All those in, did I already do this? Someone hit me if I'm sorry. So motion passes. Let's move to business, and I will turn it over to Jeffrey.
Thank you very much. We have before you the monthly report of expenses for the authority. We had a starting balance in the period of $145,821.21, and we finished the month with $140,469.80. So we still have a sizable balance in our account, and we have interest year to date of $5.12. Thank you, FNB Bank. And if everybody has any questions about our expenses, I'll be happy to answer.
And then I'm just going to quickly go to other business, where I was just going to mention that the Section 203 report, as you all know, is due at the end of April. And as usual, Jeffrey will work on a preliminary update of what we have done in the past, and then we'll make a motion at the next meeting to actually submit it on time, as we always do.
Andre, do you want me to discuss the conversation with DCD?
Oh, did you have one? Yes.
Brian?
Sean.
At the chairman's request, I called Sean who was one of the counsel at DCED to get his take on the delay in the signing of the Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement between the authority and the city, as well as what his thoughts are on the city's continuing insistence that there needs to be some orders out of Commonwealth Court to arrange certain matters, which have always been fairly nebulous in their statement, before the agreement is signed, because the city does not want to be removed from Act 47, which would occur if the agreement gets signed, until these various issues are resolved. So I spoke to him today. In his mind, Neil has several matters that the city wants the court to order relief from, though DCD didn't know the whole list. He did mention in passing, and it caught my attention because I know you're interested, the OPEB trust. So I do not know what nature of the relief would be. And I did not call Neil, because I wanted to talk to this group before I made that phone call, to find out what his particular city requests would be. But the other thing that he would request, and DCD is interested in him requesting, is to get a court order to have DCED named as a successor in interest to the Act 47 coordinator in the incinerator litigation. Because if you remember the September, I think their preliminary objection opinion stated that only the Act 47 coordinator continues to have standing in that matter. And so when the intergovernmental cooperation agreement is signed, the Act 47 coordinator will automatically be removed from that litigation, and that will leave no Commonwealth presence in that matter. And DCD does not want that to occur. They want to have a presence in that matter. They were out a lot of money. So DCD is most specifically, and as far as I could tell from talking to him, only interested in getting named as successor in interest to the Act 47 coordinator by judicial order before we would then sign the intergovernmental cooperation agreements, because then that would leave them as the party in interest to that incinerator litigation. So that was a whole lot more clear to me. Though, like I said, I did not call Neil to find out what his other particular specific non-DCED issues might be. I can't, but I somehow or another I felt like there was a tipping of my hand. I didn't want to do that until I talked to you guys.
Well, yeah, when we met with the mayor, it was suggested by one of the participants that it would be always good to have the perspective of DCED, so that we can then put it together with what Neil is and see if it can't be expedited, because it would be a wonderful feather in the cap of the mayor to get released from Act 47, even though every person probably wouldn't have a clue what that meant, but it just means, I mean, if someone says you're out of distressed city mode, they're like, yes.
Yeah, sounds good.
They don't mention us. So, but I think that's why it's important if you can keep that, and then maybe do reach out to Neil and say, can we get it really detailed so that it's not murky as far as
Right.
what next steps are?
When I talked to him, Sean, when I talked to him, he said Neil has continuously represented that he was going to be doing this. He said for quite some time now. And I said, well, I'm not going to rush to Neil's defense, but in support, nonetheless, I will say that it seems to me that relations have gone more harmonious. And I said, I don't know that the delay that Neil had previously was Neil's delay necessarily. While he might have had, every time I talked to him, I think he had the best of intentions. I got the sense that he was being held back. And that's what I told DCED. The other phone call I did get was from Chuck Swallow, who represents the county. And apparently the county is getting irritated. Again, because of the delays. You know, the previous constant representations by Neil that they were going to get to this, and then nothing happened. You know, previous administration. So I also told him that I had the sense that relations were improving and that the authority was feeling much better about generally how things were progressing. And so he was a little more comfortable with that, but nonetheless, the county is getting irritated for what that's worth.
So I guess anything we could do to facilitate this moving forward would make the county happy.
Right. I mean, I do understand the need for the order for DCD's purposes. So, you know, I think that the first thing is we don't sign anything until we're sure everybody's got the orders they need for the purposes they need them.
Anything else on the OPID trust or just a
No,
reference?
it was just a reference, and I'm trying to decide. My thought is, this is just complete speculation on my part, is that he's going to want to try to change like compliance rules, or, you know, I mean, if it was me, I would be trying to make a better deal, because that's going to be very difficult for them just to do what is required. So I don't know what he's going to do. He didn't seem to think he was even the last time I talked to him, that he was even going to be able to get the group to get players named. So I don't know what that, unless he wants the court to order people, you know, which would help.
That could be an ongoing albatross in my mind on the city.
Well, that's
if that
why.
is not funded. Now, I'm told by some that what happens is, even though you had bargained, and this is me playing messenger, this is not me saying I like it this way. my view, Carlos, if we were at the bargaining table, I'd fight the tooth and nail at the bargaining table, but once it's signed, it's signed. And I got to hold up my part of the bargain and you've got to hold up yours. But I'm told by some that what some municipalities are doing is going into all this and collective bargaining agreements and then just walking away from it, which is absolutely horrible for people that are planning on that
Making
kind
life
of
plans.
money.
Making
you know?
life plans based on
Yeah.
that. Well, I can, if the group wishes, I will certainly call Neil and try to get more detail. But like I said, I didn't do it without somebody suggesting it.
It was in the Harrisburg Strong Plan, and it's a requirement of Act 124.
Right.
And the money's been set aside already.
Some,
But
not
not
very
Starting-
not
starting
near
amounts.
enough.
Set
Not
as-
near enough. And I think that
But-
might be the
But there
issue.
is a sum that's been provided by this Commonwealth, right? And
Right.
it's ready to be deposited into the trust fund when the trust fund opens for business.
Right.
So, and it sounds like city council did approve necessary ordinances last year.
Yep.
And it
Yep.
sounds from what we understood last year, the only hurdle remaining was to actually name people to the board so that the OPEC trust fund could open for business.
and why not put more money on it this year when we are flush compared to, just dragging it out?
It's what we've heard most recently regarding that. I think it was as recently as the last meeting. I think I'm saying that from memory, but Marita did talk about that a little bit. And I think Marita's thinking, at least in the short term, in the near term, was that that the plan was to sort of pay as you go.
Yeah.
That it was a huge number that as of now, they felt good about keeping up with pay as you go, and it helped to have the cushion from the strong plan deposit. But yeah, long term, just like capital improvements and capital expenditures, long term, there was probably a need for a long term plan to fully fund the OPEB trust. But in the short term, I think she felt okay with, they had good breathing room with the pay as you go strategy.
Yeah, but if you put a little extra in this year, as I say, if we are flush, and I think we still will be a bit flush when everything is allocated, then at least you draw more interest on it, which is going back into the fund, which is reducing what we have to put in.
Yeah, well, I think it's certainly a topic that we monitor because it's an Act 124 and certainly needs to show up in the 5-year plan. Whether it's in the past it's said in the 5-year plan, it's been the narrative format. It hasn't showed up in the financial portion. Well, I think whether it's this rendition or the plan 6 months from now, whenever that is, the next update. I think that's something that we should be engaging with Marita and her team on sooner rather than later, so we have a good outlook as to how that plays out over the next 5 years.
All right, well, then I will call Neil next day or so and see what I can find out, and I'll email everybody if there's any detail at all.
Maybe a meeting.
Well, let me see what he says. And right, and if he says something that I know is gonna make somebody's hair fall out, yeah, we'll probably move on to that.
Put the words together.
Yeah, there's Frank.
You got the same text I got.
No.
Oh,
What'd she say?
she won't make it by 4:30.
Okay.
So
All right,
let me flip it over to Matt, and absent anyone else, you probably I don't need to introduce you personally, but if you might just share a little bit about yourself and perhaps what your priorities have been in these, I think you started March
About 17 days.
17 days.
deeply in the weeds.
Yeah, it's been quite the busy 2.5 weeks since we started, but hitting the ground running, and wouldn't want it any other way. For those of you who are not familiar with my previous work, I was a reporter and anchor at Fox 43 WPMT for the last 7 years. So if at the top of my bio is, if you're looking at it like an outline, the top of my bio is communicator. The second line is storyteller. And that is something which I am going to, and have already started with this role as the city's communications director, and plan to kind of utilize, more than anything else, is telling the city's stories, the individuals, the businesses, everything. the last couple of weeks kind of serve as a great example where crime is inevitable. It's unfortunate, but there's nothing that we can do to necessarily prevent that in the communications office. But what we can do is counterbalance that and overwhelm with positive stories, which exist. I'm not doing it for the sake of doing it because these are stories and people that have been neglected for a long time, that it is our job now to tell those stories of the people of the city and the great work that is being done that may not have been told, because people need positive news and they need to be informed. And that is one of the primary jobs that we have. And also just general communications with the press and local media, which having been on the other side has lacked over the last few years, which has been a top priority of ours since I started a couple weeks ago, and have already heard back from a lot of people saying it's like night and day. So we know that we're off to a good start, but it is as the cliche goes, it's a marathon, not a sprint. But so far through the first half mile, so to speak, we're not tiring out just yet. So thank you all for having me here, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. And if you need anything from the mayor's office, from a communication standpoint, please reach out.
Well, all 5 of the board members live in the city. So I think, certainly agree that good news is needed and will help all of us weather whatever is ahead. So thank you for focusing on that. I told a couple people your handle is the marvelous Mr. Maisel, which made me laugh the first time I saw it. Sort of like when opportunity strikes, you grab it, right?
Well,
You never would have- you never
I
would
may
have
be
thought.
taking some copyright liberties on that, but no, I'm very active on all forms of social media. The marvelous Mr. So my last name is actually pronounced Maisel, so it's a little bit different than the show. But I'm on Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, and I plan, because of that knowledge of the inner workings of social media, the city's going to therefore also be very active on social media and getting a lot of these videos out on YouTube. Great example of something that happened today, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but at the Susquehanna Art Museum, they took the 5G pole that was an eyesore for the last year and a half, and a local artist basically designed a wrap around it, and now it is a vibrant looking piece of art. And actually, according to Verizon, it's the first 5G pole in the country to be turned into artwork. So that's really neat. And we did something on it, and it'll be up on our YouTube page later today. So it's things like that aren't necessarily city governmental stories, although we're going to do plenty of those, but stories that are taking place with private businesses and nonprofits that are located within the city, that we feel can be uplifting to everyone. And because at the end of the day, we represent everyone in the city. So whether it's a private business or a public entity or a nonprofit, it doesn't matter. We are here to tell their stories, and we're off to a good start, I think, bias-wise.
Any questions from that or comments? I will tell. I was just going to say, I think you're right on. Facebook has become a major source of information about how the city is feeling. This Concerned Citizens of Harrisburg group came about during the campaign, and it was a very good place, at least for me, to figure out what people were really thinking. What got them motivated and what really irritated. And some of the participants came together and actually created very good messaging for the public to say, you're going to go before city council. Here's what you say. Here's how you say it. Here's a banner if you want to make it. So I think if you can be a presence even in that one, it gives the city a way, because they're always saying, where's the city? Where's the mayor? And in the past, the former administration perhaps wasn't anywhere, but our mayor is. And so it would be good to have someone speaking for the city in that vein.
Yeah, and I think I can't speak obviously for the past administration,
Yeah.
especially as someone that was covering the past administration as a reporter. But I can say that one of our chief goals is to be ahead of everything that comes out of the city so that people are not seeing it for the first time on Penline or ABC 27 or any of the other television stations, that you're hearing it from us first. That's one of our primary goals. I think what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, I think, is a great example where we are getting the information out to the news outlets before they're reporting from sources. Because speaking as someone with experience, when sources are involved, then it becomes, you're not getting the full story. There's still lots of questions left to be desired. Whereas if they're getting the information from the city and the police are out in front of it and the mayor's out in front of it, then the goal, hopefully, is that people can be a little more at ease with the information that's coming across. So we plan to be very much ahead of the stories and playing offense instead of defense. And we're not going to win every single time, but if we can, if the first couple weeks of my time in this role is any indication, I think we're off to a good start. And if we can continue to keep that up, have a fantastic relationship with Harrisburg Police and Harrisburg Fire, just from my time as a reporter, and to be able to carry that over to what I'm doing now has been tremendous. And I spoke with City Council last night, and I'm really looking forward to having a great relationship with them as well. President Bowers and I went to high school together, so that's something that just the relationships that I've built in this city over time, I think are really starting to see the fruits now, and I'm looking forward to it.
One of the things that I attribute to Commissioner Carter, rightly or wrongly, is that he used to talk about the crime in terms of they believe it's an incident that does not involve a broader population. I've seen recently some morphing into some of the violence has been targeted violence, indicating that maybe there's people who were involved in things that they shouldn't have been involved in, or illegal activities anyhow. I think some of that is helpful to the general population. And if that's something that you can continue, I know when I'm reading stories and I read that, it's not to say that that should have happened, not at all, but at least it gives you some indication that you shouldn't be running into your house and locking your doors.
That's I think the primary, over the last couple of weeks, the primary message that Harrisburg Police and public safety officials in the city want to get out is that the general public at large is not in danger. The incidents that occurred involve, you mentioned targeted, Commissioner Carter has mentioned targeted. And what we mean by that is the person who was shot was sought by someone. And why that is important to say, because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not like someone is going around shooting people at random. There's not a serial instance of this happening across the city. So when we say the public is not in danger, that is ultimately what we mean, what police mean by that. And that is the message. All that being said, they are continuing to work. Just because we may not hear from police every single day doesn't mean they're not making inroads on these cases and catching these guys. And when they are caught, they will be held to the full extent. So, I think one of the issues that they're running into, I think more than anything else, you may have heard this, is getting the community to help and being able to say something if they do see something. Right now, when they're coming across victims and witnesses, there's not a lot of cooperation. And the hope is that with more cooperation, and I'll use an instance, the most recent shooting, and knock on wood, there hasn't been one since Sunday morning. And in that most recent shooting Sunday morning, people in the neighborhood spoke up. And within 2 days, there was a warrant for someone's arrest. And that is how quickly things can change if the community helps the police out, because the police can only do their job as good as the community allows them to. And we have a really good police force, and we have a really good community as well. And if we can work together on that, then we can solve a lot of these crimes a lot faster. And that's basically what Commissioner Carter has been saying all along. And what they're going to continue to say as they continue to investigate these crimes.
I was only going to mention that these meetings, as stimulating and exciting as they are, used to be recorded and broadcast on the city's cable station and on their YouTube channel. And for whatever reason, that ceased to happen sometime last year. And I don't know if you're the person in charge of that or this goes
Yes.
through the mayor, but I know that there are those, you can tell by our audience, who would love to know what the ICA is doing regarding the financial management of the city. And if there was a way we can reinstitute the recording and broadcast, I know this group would be much appreciated. So
100%. I did not know that, and I'm glad you mentioned that to me. So what I'm going to do before I leave is I will hand my business card out to each and every one of you that has my cell phone, my email, my work phone, and so the next in April, when the next ICA meeting is held, please let us know, and I'll make sure that Asher Johnson, our multimedia specialist, is here with the camera, and we'll be able to post it up on YouTube and put it on WHBG, as soon as he's able to transfer.
our next meeting is at an alternate location in the city. It's in a conference room nearby.
That's fine.
But I'll make sure that,
Yeah.
that Asher and you are both on the distribution list.
Excellent, thank you.
Anything else?
High hopes for the city in general, and also high hopes coming out of the communications office. For my 2 cents, I've heard a really nice positive buzz. It's my first time meeting you today, Matt, but I heard a nice positive buzz about your start at the city. So thanks for joining the right cause, and look forward to seeing positive change and continue as it has so far so much this year.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Matt Mazel. And if you give us your card,
Yeah,
we'll
I will
also
do that.
let you get released so that you can go back and write another story.
Well, at this point, it's me picking up the kids, so.
Oh, tons of stories there. So
So if we
the,
have a vote on the letter before he
yeah.
disappears, then he can carry the water.
Yeah.
He can carry the results back. Okay.
Yeah. But that, because,
Thank you.
Yeah. thank you.
thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
So the last item on the agenda, because we will not, there will be no public comment today. So the last item truly on our agenda is approving or discussing and possibly approving the request for the city's extension of the submission of their 5-year financial plan, which was originally due or is originally due on April 30th. We had talked about this in the past, that they were likely going to ask for an extension. And in fact, Matt brought over the official letter. I had printed out for you the draft that we had gotten. Jeffrey has confirmed that the draft is exactly as the original that was submitted. So just open it up for any comment that anyone may have.
The date that the mayor is requesting is
Is June 30th,
June 30th. But April 30th.
a 2-month extension.
I'd be happy to kick it off with a easy comment, which is that when the city did recently, open up and update the budget, I know that we all attended and the budget meetings, and we got to review that, and we also got, I think we did a quick comparison to the 5-year plan that is still in effect, and it wasn't, it wasn't drastically, it wasn't such a drastic difference that it would that there was any cause for concern, at least on my part. So I don't think there's any urgency that's adversely affected by an additional 60 days. And to the contrary, if that gives Marita's team more time to get their house in order and come up with a better plan than it would be by rushing it through, I think that would be better, since, like I said, since the existing budget isn't that far off from the plan in the first place. That's my 2 cents.
I also like this letter's acknowledgement that the intent is to include discussion of the ARPA fund uses.
Yes. I agree. Any other comments? Not, could I ask for a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I did listen to the city council meeting last night. And the city is still awaiting the results of the community sessions to figure it out. But I know that Marita thought hopefully they get something soon, and we as well will get a sense of that.
And Rita has talked to me about allowing me to participate in the drafting of the 5-year plan, so that I have some preview prior to its delivery to the ICA, which should be terrific. Yeah, that's great.
And again, that's the way we had envisioned it from the start, so that, you merge the 2 lanes, and that way you can get off whenever you want and know what's going on. I moved other business to the front, but is there any other business that anyone has?
Just a reminder, at the bottom of the agenda, it notes that our next meeting will be in an unusual location. We'll be at Startup Harrisburg in the main large conference room, which I know you've been to. We'll be there just for 1 month, so we'll see how it goes. And it is ADA accessible, and the public is invited to attend. Yes.
Just because this is an official meeting, would you like to clarify that Startup Harrisburg has a new name?
Yeah, what is their name?
I actually forgot what it is, but
Okay,
they just within the last
They,
month.
they
their
changed
name.
hands, like workplace or something like that, but I don't.
That may be it, because that is, if it's a national, it's a regular.
I'll quickly Google it and see if it can.
The decider of all things, just Google it.
It's called Pursuit Co-working.
Yeah.
Is the
Thank you.
new
And I think they're going by pursuit.
Pursuit Co-working. It's at on North 3rd Street. It's a nice facility, and we'll be using that conference room. We weren't able to use this room for our next meeting, so we'll go 1 meeting at that location and then back here for the rest of the year.
Great. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, motion to adjourn. Second,
Second.
all those in favor, out the door.
So I think that
Thank
we
you.
should take a
Thanks,
look at this
Matt.
letter and memorize this signature